The screen goes black. Then, 23 seconds of shaky footage that shouldn't exist. It's the last thing anyone saw from Tyler Brennan, a 32-year-old travel photographer from Flagstaff, Arizona, standing alone in the vastness of Namibia's Namib Desert, under a sky so dark the stars look close enough to touch. His breathing is audible, fast, irregular, the kind of breath you take when your body knows something your mind hasn't processed yet. The camera swings wildly across the horizon, catching fragments of orange sand dunes bathed in moonlight. And then it stops. It focuses. There, in the distance, maybe 3 miles out, lights. Not headlights, not campfires. Lights that move in formation, drifting horizontally just above the desert floor. Tyler zooms in. His breath catches. The lights flicker, shift. Then the phone tumbles into the sand. The screen fills with grains of white quartz catching the glow of his display. The reel ends. That was October 14th, 2023. Tyler never posted again. He never called his sister back. He never checked out of his rented Toyota Land Cruiser at the depot in Windhoek. For 6 days, his Instagram account stayed active. View counts climbing, comments piling up, algorithms pushing the reel to thousands of new viewers. But Tyler wasn't there to see it. He was gone. What makes this case linger isn't just the footage, it's what came after. The Land Cruiser found 40 kilometers off route with the keys still in the ignition, and Tyler's camera bag carefully zipped shut on the passenger seat. The tent that was never packed away. The water bottles, 11 of them, lined up in a perfect row outside the camp. Caps removed, contents emptied into the sand. And the phone itself, discovered 3 weeks later by a German hiking group, buried 30 centimeters deep under a dune that shouldn't have shifted in that direction according to wind patterns. Tyler's father, a retired firefighter from Prescott, spent 4 months in Namibia. He hired guides, brought drones, contacted embassies. He watched that 23-second reel so many times he can recite the exact rhythm of his son's breath. He wasn't scared, he said in an interview 9 months later, voice barely above a whisper. He was confused. Like he was seeing something that didn't make sense. That's what haunts me. Not fear, confusion. This is the story of a man who went to one of the most remote places on Earth to capture beauty, and captured something else instead, something that erased him from the world in a single night, leaving behind only questions, contradictions, and 23 seconds of footage that no one can explain. Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from, and what's the strangest place you've ever explored? Tyler James Brennan wasn't reckless. That's the first thing everyone says. His younger sister Rachel remembers him as the kid who'd triple-checked the stove before leaving the house, who kept backup batteries for everything, who read instruction manuals front to back. He was the guy who planned, she said. Always. Even when we were kids going camping with Dad, Tyler would have lists, gear lists, food lists, emergency contact lists. That was just who he was. Born in Prescott, Arizona in 1991, Tyler grew up in a family that valued the outdoors but respected its dangers. His father, a firefighter for 28 years, had seen enough preventable accidents to drill caution into his kids. Tyler absorbed it. By the time he was in high school, he was the one organizing group hikes, the one who'd research trails, check weather forecasts, carry the first aid kit. He studied graphic design at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, but it was during a semester abroad in New Zealand in 2012 that he discovered what he really wanted to do: travel photography. His Instagram, @TylerCaptures, launched in 2014 with landscapes from the American Southwest. Red rock formations at sunset, slot canyons glowing amber, the kind of images that made you feel small in the best way. By 2018, he'd built a modest following, around 43,000 people who tuned in for his blend of technical skill and genuine awe at natural beauty. He wasn't trying to be an influencer. He didn't do sponsorships or sell presets. He just posted what he loved, accompanied by captions that were thoughtful, never preachy. "Light is a language," he wrote once. "If you're patient enough, it'll tell you stories." Professionally, Tyler worked as a freelance photographer and part-time graphic designer for a Flagstaff-based outdoor gear company. It gave him flexibility, enough income to travel 2 or 3 times a year, usually solo, usually to remote places. Iceland in winter, Patagonia in spring, the Scottish Highlands during storm season. He had a type: vast, empty, elemental landscapes where weather and geology did the talking. Friends described him as introverted but not withdrawn, someone who recharged alone but showed up when it mattered. He'd go weeks without texting back, then suddenly drive 4 hours to help you move, his college roommate said. That was Tyler, reliable in ways that mattered. But there was something else too, a quality his sister noticed more as they got older. Tyler was searching for something. Not in a desperate way, but in the way people search when they feel like they haven't quite found their place yet. He'd talk about light and composition, but underneath that was a deeper question. What makes a moment feel real? He'd obsess over single photographs for days, adjusting contrast, tweaking colors, trying to capture not just what he saw, but what he felt when he saw it. He wanted people to feel it too, Rachel said. He wanted them to stop scrolling and just be there with him, even for a second. In September 2023, Tyler announced his next trip, Namibia, the Namib Desert specifically, one of the oldest deserts on Earth, home to the iconic red dunes of Sossusvlei and the skeletal remains of dead trees at Deadvlei. He'd been planning it for over a year, saving money, researching permits, studying the best times for light. He posted a photo of his gear laid out on his apartment floor. A Canon R5, 3 lenses, a tripod, a DJI drone, solar chargers, a satellite communicator. 2 weeks in one of the most surreal places on the planet, the caption read. If the photos don't blow your mind, I failed. His friends were excited for him. His father was cautious but supportive. He'd taught Tyler well, after all. Rachel made him promise to check in every few days, even if it was just a text saying he was alive. Tyler laughed. "I've got the sat phone," he told her. "You'll be sick of hearing from me." It was the last real conversation they had. Tyler landed at Hosea Kutako International Airport, 45 kilometers east of Windhoek, on October 3, 2023. The flight from Phoenix had taken nearly 24 hours with layovers in Frankfurt and Johannesburg. He posted a photo from the arrivals hall, his backpack slung over one shoulder, exhaustion visible, but a grin breaking through. "Made it," the caption read. "Now the real work begins." He spent 2 days in Windhoek preparing. First stop, a rental agency on Independence Avenue, where he picked up a white Toyota Land Cruiser 79, the kind of vehicle built for punishment, high clearance, reinforced suspension, dual fuel tanks. The paperwork listed his itinerary. Windhoek to Sossusvlei via the C19 and CT7 routes, then northwest toward the Skeleton Coast, looping back through Swakopmund before returning to the capital. Total distance, roughly 1,800 kilometers over 14 days. He paid extra for a roof-mounted tent, a portable fridge, and jerry cans for additional fuel and water. The agent remembered him as polite, methodical, asking detailed questions about road conditions and cell coverage. Tyler also purchased supplies at a local outfitter, dried food, electrolyte packets, a medical kit with snakebite protocol included. Namibia is home to puff adders and Cape cobras. He bought a handheld GPS unit as a backup to his phone, a decision that would later strike investigators as both prudent and insufficient. He tested his Garmin InReach satellite communicator in the parking lot, sending a test message to Rachel. "All systems go. You're stuck with me for 2 weeks." She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a warning to stay hydrated. On October 5th, he departed Windhoek, heading south on the B1 highway toward Rehoboth, then southwest on the C26. The landscape transformed quickly. urban sprawl giving way to thorn scrub, then to the burnt orange and crimson expanses of the Namib. He stopped frequently to shoot. His Instagram updates during the first 3 days were consistent: sunrise over red dunes near Sesriem, the cracked white clay pan of dead Vley surrounded by skeletal camel thorn trees, a lone oryx silhouetted against an apricot sky. Each post geotagged, each time-stamped between 6 and 8 a.m. local time, when the light was cleanest. By October 9th, Tyler had reached the Sossus Vley area, where he camped at an official site near the Sesriem gate. Park records confirm his entry and exit times. He spoke briefly with other travelers. A Swiss couple mentioned he seemed focused but friendly, declining an invitation to join them for a communal dinner. He said he wanted to get one more shoot in before sunset, the woman recalled. He had this way of talking about light like it was a living thing. You could tell he took it seriously. October 10th through 13th are where the timeline starts to blur. Tyler left the official campsite and moved deeper into the Namib-Naukluft National Park, seeking what he called in a voice message to a friend, untouched angles. His GPS tracks, later recovered from the Land Cruiser, show he ventured northwest along the D826, a gravel track that threads between dune ridges, eventually veering off-road near coordinates, approximately 24 to G46 is, 15 to G29 to EE, an area roughly 60 kilometers from the nearest settlement of Solitaire. This is legal in designated zones, provided travelers stay on tracks and avoid protected wildlife corridors. Tyler, by all evidence, did exactly that. His last confirmed human contact was on October 13th at 4:47 p.m. local time. A satellite message to Rachel, camped under Dune 17, no official name but I'm calling it that, zero light pollution, stars are unreal, shooting long exposure tonight, check in tomorrow. The message included no coordinates. The inReach had sent default location data, but those coordinates matched his stated position from earlier in the day, not his evening camp. This would become a critical detail. That night, Tyler posted 3 times. First, at 7:32 p.m., a still image of his camp, the Land Cruiser parked beneath a towering dune, tent deployed on the roof, a small camp stove glowing blue in the foreground. Second, at 9:18 p.m., a long exposure shot of the Milky Way arcing over the desert, the kind of image that takes patience and perfect stillness. Third, at 11:41 p.m., the real, 23 seconds, the lights, the zoom, the dropped phone. The caption was a single sentence, "What am I looking at?" Within 2 hours, the post had 400 views. By morning, 1,200. By October 15th, when Rachel tried to call him and got no response, it had reached 38,000. The algorithm had decided it was compelling. People were commenting, theorizing, tagging friends. Tyler's account was blowing up, but Tyler wasn't there to see it. Somewhere between 11:41 p.m. on October 13th and sunrise on October 14th, Tyler Brennan stopped being reachable. Rachel Brennan was at work when the unease began. October 15th, a Tuesday, mid-morning at her office in Tempe, Arizona. She'd seen Tyler's Instagram reel the night before, the lights, the shaky zoom, the abrupt ending, and found it unsettling but also typical of her brother's style. Dramatic, intentional, she'd commented, "Spooky, don't get abducted, LOL." Tyler usually replied within hours, especially to family. By noon Arizona time, 10:00 p.m. Namibian time, there was nothing. She tried calling. The line connected but went straight to a generic voicemail prompt, the kind that plays when a phone is either off or out of range. She sent a text, then another. By 3:00 p.m., she'd sent 6 messages, each one slightly more urgent. "Tyler, seriously, just let me know you're okay." No response. She told herself it was fine. He was in the desert, signal was spotty, he'd check in tomorrow. But that night, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the reel. The way his breath had sped up, the way the camera fell. By October 16th, 48 hours after Tyler's last post, Rachel contacted the U.S. Embassy in Windhoek. The consular officer was polite but measured. American citizens go off-grid in Namibia regularly. It's why they come. Without evidence of foul play, there wasn't much to be done immediately. They advised her to try the rental company. Rachel did. The agency confirmed Tyler had the Land Cruiser until October 17th, with a grace period until the 19th before late fees kicked in. They hadn't heard from him either, but again, not unusual for someone deep in the Namib. October 17th came and went. No check-in, no return. The rental agency grew concerned. They contacted the Namibian police in Windhoek, who forwarded the matter to the field office in Sesriem, the nearest staffed outpost to Tyler's last known location. An officer named Kapenda reviewed the case details. American male, solo traveler, last contact October 13th, vehicle overdue. He logged it as a potential missing person, but noted the vastness of the search area and limited resources. Protocol dictated waiting another 24 hours before deploying search efforts. People often reappear with dead batteries or vehicle trouble. On October 18th, Rachel's father booked a flight to Namibia. He didn't tell her at first, didn't want her to panic or insist on coming along. He just packed a bag, printed every text and email exchange with Tyler, and flew out that night from Phoenix. By the time Rachel found out, he was already in Frankfurt, halfway across the world. "I can't sit here," he told her over a scratchy phone connection. "I can't just wait." His voice was steady, but Rachel could hear what lay beneath it. The same tone he'd used when responding to structure fires. The tone that meant he was terrified, but moving anyway. Meanwhile, Tyler's Instagram reel had gone viral. By October 18th, it had passed 200,000 views. True crime forums picked it up. Reddit threads exploded with theories. UFO enthusiasts claimed the lights were extraterrestrial. Skeptics said it was a hoax staged for engagement. A few people, very few, suggested something darker: human trafficking, illegal mining operations, something Tyler stumbled onto that he shouldn't have. The Namibian authorities, under growing international attention, escalated the search. On October 19th, a two-man patrol from the Namib Naukluft Park Ranger Station departed toward the coordinates embedded in Tyler's satellite message from October 13th. What they found, 37 kilometers northwest of that point, stopped them cold. The white Land Cruiser, parked at the base of a dune complex, driver's side door open, engine off, keys in the ignition. The roof tent deployed but empty. No Tyler, no sign of struggle. But everything else, every piece of his gear, was there. His camera bag sat on the passenger seat, zipped shut. Inside, the Canon R5, all 3 lenses, memory card still inserted. The drone was in its case in the back. His satellite communicator was on the dashboard. Battery at 18%, last outgoing message still displayed on the screen. The one to Rachel from October 13th. His wallet, passport, and a Ziploc bag containing $200 in U.S. currency were tucked into the glove compartment. The portable fridge held food, dried mango, protein bars, cheese that had spoiled in the heat. Water bottles, this is the detail that haunts people, were lined up outside the vehicle in a perfect row. 11 of them. All opened, all empty. Contents poured into the sand, leaving dark stains that had dried into the crust. The tent showed no signs of disturbance. Sleeping bag unrolled but not slept in, pillow still positioned neatly. Tyler's boots were inside the vehicle, laces tied. His hiking sandals were missing. A pair of sunglasses sat on the dashboard. The Rangers radioed back to Sesriem. This wasn't someone who'd wandered off disoriented. This was something else, something methodical, something that didn't make sense. And Tyler's phone, the one that had filmed the reel, the one that had fallen into the sand, wasn't there. The search began in earnest on October 20th, 2023. A coordinated effort between Namibian police, park rangers, and volunteers from nearby lodges and tour companies. The terrain made everything harder. The Namib is not forgiving. Dunes shift constantly, erasing tracks within hours. Daytime temperatures push past 40 degrees Celsius. Visibility at ground level is deceptive. What looks like a few kilometers can be 10. They started with a 30-kilometer radius around the land cruiser. Footprints were the first discovery. A single set leading northeast from the vehicle, made by someone wearing flat-soled shoes, consistent with Tyler's missing sandals. The prints were clear for the first 200 meters, then grew fainter as the sand composition changed. Investigators followed them across a low valley between dunes, up a steep slip face, then down into a bowl-shaped depression. There, the prints stopped, not gradually, abruptly, as if Tyler had simply ceased walking mid-stride. The sand beyond showed no collapse, no sign of a fall or stumble. Just nothing. Rangers brought in tracking dogs on October 21st. 2 Belgian Malinois trained for wilderness search and rescue. The dogs picked up Tyler's scent from clothing in the Land Cruiser and led handlers along the same path the footprints had traced. But at the bowl depression, they circled, whined, sat down, refused to continue. Their handler, a veteran tracker named Petrus, had never seen them behave that way. They were confused, he said later. Like the scent just ended. Not faded, ended. They tried multiple times, same result. When Tyler's father arrived on October 22nd, he went directly to the site. He walked the path his son had walked, stood where the footprints stopped, looked out at the endless expanse of orange sand and brutal ski. He hired a private search and rescue consultant from South Africa, a man named de Klerk, who specialized in desert recoveries. De Klerk brought drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras. For 3 days, they flew grid patterns over 100 square kilometer area. The drones detected oryx, springbok, jackals, no human heat signature, no body. Meanwhile, forensic teams examined the Land Cruiser. The vehicle's GPS unit provided a detailed track log, every place Tyler had driven since leaving Windhoek. The data was intact, time-stamped, and showed his movements clearly up until 9:13 p.m. on October 13th, when the vehicle was parked at the site where it was found. After that, no movement. The ignition had been turned off manually. There was no mechanical failure. But here's what investigators found strange. The odometer showed an extra 42 kilometers beyond what the GPS log accounted for. 42 kilometers driven somewhere, at some point, with no digital record. The memory cards from Tyler's camera became critical evidence. Over 3,000 images, meticulously organized, landscapes, light studies, star trails. The final photographs were taken on the evening of October 13th. The long exposure Milky Way shot posted to Instagram at 9:18 p.m., followed by 6 more frames of the same scene with slight variations in exposure settings. The last image was time-stamped 10:47 p.m., 54 minutes before the Instagram reel was posted. It showed the camp, the Land Cruiser, the tent, everything normal. But the metadata revealed something odd. The camera's internal clock had reset itself to January 1st, 2000 at 11:03 p.m. Every photo after that moment carried the wrong date. Investigators consulted Canon technicians. Such a reset typically requires either battery removal or a significant electrical surge, neither of which had obvious explanations. On October 26th, public pressure intensified. Tyler's Instagram reel had been viewed over 800,000 times. Journalists from the US, UK, and South Africa descended on Windhoek. The Namibian government, sensitive to tourism impacts, expanded the search. Helicopters swept the region. Volunteers combed dunes on foot. A reward was posted, $50,000 Namibian dollars for information leading to Tyler's whereabouts. Tips poured in. Most were useless. Some were cruel. Fake sightings, hoaxes designed for attention. One caller claimed Tyler had been seen at a bar in Swakopmund. Police investigated. False. Rachel flew out on October 27th, joining her father. Together, they retraced Tyler's social media posts, visited the places he'd photographed, spoke with anyone who might have crossed paths with him. At a lodge in Sesriem, a manager remembered Tyler briefly, said he'd bought ice and bottled water on October 12th, mentioned he was heading off-map for a few days to avoid tourist clusters. He seemed excited, not distressed. Just a guy doing what he loved, the manager said. Happens all the time here. They want the real dessert. The phone, Tyler's iPhone, remained missing until November 4th. A German couple hiking near Dune 45, a popular tourist site roughly 80 kilometers southeast of where the Land Cruiser was found, spotted something metallic protruding from sand. They dug it out. An iPhone in a rugged case, screen cracked but intact. They powered it on. Tyler's lock screen, a photo of the Grand Canyon at sunset. They contacted authorities immediately. The phone was forensically analyzed in Windhoek, battery dead, but data recoverable. The Instagram reel was still in the camera roll, along with 37 other videos Tyler hadn't posted. Most were test shots, lighting checks, narration drafts. But one, recorded at 11:52 p.m. on October 13th, 11 minutes after the reel was posted, showed Tyler sitting inside the Land Cruiser, face illuminated by the dashboard lights. He was speaking directly to the camera, voice low and unsteady. I don't know what I saw out there. I don't know if it was real, but I'm heading back to check. If something happens, if I don't, just know I wasn't scared. I was curious. That's all, just curious. The video ended. That was the last thing Tyler Brennan ever recorded. The discovery raised a new, chilling question. How did the phone travel 80 kilometers from the site where Tyler disappeared? The dune where it was found is a heavily trafficked area, photographed by thousands of tourists annually. Park rangers confirmed that on October 14th, the day after Tyler vanished, the dune had been visited by at least 40 people. None reported seeing the phone. Yet forensic analysis of sand particles embedded in the case suggested it had been buried for at least 2 weeks. Someone, or something, had moved it deliberately and placed it where it would eventually be found. When someone vanishes in a place as unforgiving as the Namib Desert, investigators work through logical explanations first. The most immediate theory: Tyler became disoriented, wandered into the dunes, and succumbed to the elements. Dehydration can kill within hours in such heat. Disorientation follows quickly. Confusion, poor judgment, the inability to retrace steps. It happens to experienced hikers, let alone solo travelers in alien terrain. But this theory struggled against the evidence. Tyler's footprints didn't wander. They followed a straight line northeast, purposeful and measured. No signs of staggering, no erratic changes in direction. The sandals he wore were designed for stability. He'd left his camp at night, when temperatures dropped to comfortable levels, not during the midday furnace. And most critically, he'd left behind all his water and supplies. If he'd been disoriented, why take nothing? If he planned to return quickly, why walk so far? The tracking dog's refusal to continue past the point where the footprints ended suggested something more than simple exposure. Animals sense things humans miss. The second theory centered on human intervention. Namibia, despite its beauty and relative safety, is not immune to crime. The desert is vast, remote, and bordered by regions where illegal mining, diamonds, uranium, operates in shadows. Could Tyler have stumbled onto something he wasn't supposed to see? The lights in the reel, some argued, could have been vehicles associated with illegal activity. Mining operations, smuggling routes, places where witnesses are liabilities. In this version of events, Tyler's curiosity led him toward danger. He was intercepted, silenced, his body disposed of in a landscape that swallows secrets. This theory gained traction when investigators examined the 42 unaccounted kilometers on the Land Cruiser's odometer. Someone drove that vehicle somewhere the GPS didn't record, either because the unit was disabled or because the route was deliberately masked. Add to that the phone, buried 80 kilometers away in a location designed to be found eventually. A message, perhaps, a warning. But to whom? The Namibian police investigated mining claims and industrial activity within 200 kilometers of Tyler's camp. They found nothing. No illegal operations, no recent disturbances, no reports of criminal networks in that area. The theory, while plausible, led nowhere concrete. A darker theory emerged online, fed by the viral nature of the reel and the unsettling detail of the emptied water bottles. Some suggested a psychological break, a sudden catastrophic shift in Tyler's mental state triggered by isolation, exhaustion, or something he witnessed that fundamentally altered his perception of reality. Dissociative fugue states, though rare, can cause people to abandon their lives, their identities, and walk into oblivion without clear motive. In such states, ritualistic behaviors appear, like arranging water bottles in a perfect line, like removing all means of survival before walking into emptiness. A forensic psychologist consulted on the case noted that Tyler's final video, the one recorded at 11:52 p.m. inside the Land Cruiser, showed signs of someone processing a profound uncertainty. "I don't know if it was real," Tyler had said. Not, "I saw something dangerous." Not, "I need help." But, "I don't know if it was real." That phrasing suggests a collision between perception and rationality, a man questioning his own senses. Could the lights have been a hallucination, a trick of exhaustion and expectation? And if Tyler believed he'd seen something impossible, could that belief have fractured his grip on what was safe, what was sane? But there's another layer to this case, one that many hesitate to speak aloud but can't entirely dismiss. The Namib Desert is ancient, older than most deserts on Earth, shaped by forces operating across millions of years. Local communities have stories about the deep desert, about lights that appear where no lights should be, about people who walk out into the dunes and are never found. Not legends meant to scare tourists, but quiet warnings rooted in collective memory. When de Klerk, the search consultant, spoke with local guides, one told him something he didn't include in his official report but shared privately. The desert takes people, not often, but when it does, it doesn't leave traces. It's not cruel, it's just complete. What did Tyler see? What moved across that horizon in his reel, gliding with a fluidity that defied easy explanation? Atmospheric phenomena, ball lightning, St. Elmo's fire, refracted light from distant sources can create illusions in desert darkness. But atmospheric phenomena don't cause cameras to reset their internal clocks. They don't compel trained tracking dogs to refuse a scent trail. They don't transport phones 80 kilometers and bury them in sand with forensic precision. June 2024, 8 months after Tyler Brennan vanished. A wildlife monitoring team from the University of Cape Town was conducting a biodiversity survey in the Spergebied, the Forbidden Zone, a restricted diamond mining area along Namibia's southern coast, roughly 300 kilometers southwest of where Tyler was last seen. The team had permits to access portions of the zone for ecological research, areas tourists never reach, areas where human presence is measured in decades, not days. On June 18th at approximately 2:30 p.m., a researcher named Dr. Lena Mostert was photographing oryx tracks near an abandoned mining structure when she noticed something irregular half buried in a sand drift. Fabric, sun-bleached, torn but distinctly synthetic. She approached carefully. The Spergebied is littered with debris from old mining operations, some hazardous. What she found made her blood run cold. A hiking sandal, and 30 meters further, driven upright into the sand like a marker, a tripod leg. Tyler's tripod leg, still bearing a strip of yellow tape he'd used to label his gear. The Namibian authorities were notified immediately. A forensic team was dispatched. What they uncovered over the next 72 hours rewrote the entire case. Tyler's body, partially mummified by the desert's extreme aridity, was located 11 meters from the tripod, buried under a thin layer of sand that had preserved him with eerie precision. The position was unnatural, seated upright, back against the remnants of a collapsed mining shack, legs extended, hands resting on his knees, as if he'd sat down to rest and simply stopped. The autopsy, conducted in Windhoek, determined cause of death as dehydration and exposure. Time of death was estimated between October 14th and 16th, 2023, consistent with the timeline of his disappearance. But the findings raised more questions than they answered. Tyler's body showed no signs of trauma, no defensive wounds, no evidence of foul play. Toxicology was clean, yet the location made no sense. 300 kilometers from his camp, in a restricted zone with no roads, no accessible routes for a person on foot. Even if Tyler had walked day and night without rest, covering that distance across open desert, through dune fields and gravel plains, would have taken a minimum of 5 days. He had no water, no supplies, no navigation tools. Those were all left at his vehicle. The tripod deepened the mystery. It was intact, fully extended, positioned as if Tyler had set it up intentionally before collapsing. But the camera that should have been mounted to it was missing. Investigators searched a 200-meter radius. Nothing. The sandal found earlier was matched to Tyler through wear patterns and size. The other sandal was never recovered. His clothing, a t-shirt and cargo shorts, bore no unusual stains or damage, just the expected degradation from sun and sand. On July 3, 2024, a separate discovery shifted the investigation again. A long-haul truck driver traveling the B4 highway near Luderitz, a coastal town roughly 60 kilometers west of the Sperrgebiet, reported finding a camera case on the roadside during a fuel stop. Inside, Tyler's Canon R5, the same model and serial number registered to him. The memory card was missing, but the camera itself functioned perfectly. How it traveled from the Sperrgebiet to a public highway, a route Tyler could not have accessed on foot, was unexplained. The truck driver insisted it hadn't been there during his previous stop 12 hours earlier. Someone had placed it there recently. Tyler's father, notified of the body's discovery, flew back to Namibia. He stood in the Sperrgebiet, escorted by officials, and looked at the place where his son had been found. "It doesn't feel like an ending," he said. "It feels like we're being shown pieces of a puzzle, but not the picture on the box." He asked the investigators a question they couldn't answer. If Tyler died within days of disappearing, who moved his phone 80 kilometers in the opposite direction and buried it? Who drove the Land Cruiser those 42 unaccounted kilometers? Who placed the camera on a roadside 8 months later? The Namibian police officially closed Tyler Brennan's case as death by misadventure, a tragic consequence of desert exposure. But the report included an unusual addendum, a note from the lead investigator acknowledging unresolved anomalies, the distance traveled, the placement of objects, the absence of logical pathways. The file remains technically closed, but marked for review should new evidence emerge. Tyler was returned to Arizona. His funeral was held in Prescott on August 2, 2024. Hundreds attended, friends, family, followers who'd never met him but felt connected through his work. Rachel read from one of his photo captions. "Light doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what's there, whether you're ready to see it or not." She paused, voice cracking. "I think Tyler saw something, and I think he's still trying to show us." As of December 2025, Tyler Brennan's case remains officially closed. The Namibian authorities stand by their determination: death by exposure and dehydration in a remote desert environment. But closure on paper doesn't mean closure for those who loved him, or for the thousands who continue to analyze every frame of that 23-second reel. Rachel Brennan has become an unexpected advocate for missing travelers abroad. In March 2025, she launched the Tyler Brennan Foundation, a nonprofit that provides resources and support to families navigating international missing persons cases. The foundation helps with translation services, local legal consultation, and coordination with foreign law enforcement. gaps she experienced firsthand during those desperate weeks in Namibia. Tyler would have wanted something useful to come from this, she said in a podcast interview. Not just sadness, not just questions, something that helps people. Their father, now 71, has taken a quieter path. He keeps Tyler's Instagram account active, occasionally sharing old unpublished photos from memory cards recovered with Tyler's gear. Each post carries the same caption, "Light doesn't lie." The account has grown to over 200,000 followers, many of whom never knew Tyler but feel connected to his story. On the anniversary of Tyler's disappearance, October 13th, he posts the reel. Every year, the same 23 seconds. The views climb each time, a digital memorial that refuses to fade. There have been no formal petitions to reopen the investigation, but pressure persists. In July 2025, a documentary crew from a major streaming platform traveled to Namibia to film a full-length feature on the case. They interviewed investigators, retraced Tyler's route, and hired independent forensic analysts to review the evidence. The documentary is set to release in early 2026. Whether it will bring new revelations or simply retread familiar ground remains to be seen. Online communities dedicated to Tyler's case remain active. Reddit threads dissect every detail. YouTube channels produce analysis videos with millions of combined views. Theories range from plausible to absurd, but the engagement speaks to something deeper, a collective inability to accept the official narrative when so much doesn't fit. The missing memory card, the moved phone, the camera on the roadside, the 300-kilometer journey with no explanation. People want answers. The desert gave them a body but withheld the truth. Tyler's work endures. A gallery in Flagstaff held a retrospective exhibition in September 2024, displaying prints of his best images, vast landscapes that made viewers feel both insignificant and connected to something larger. Sales proceeds went to the foundation Rachel established. The show sold out. His photographs now hang in homes across the country, reminders that beauty and mystery often occupy the same space. And the lights? The ones in the reel? No one has definitively explained them. Atmospheric scientists have proposed refraction theories. UFO researchers claim extraterrestrial evidence. Skeptics insist they're manipulated footage, though forensic analysis found no signs of editing. The lights remain what they were on that October night, moving, inexplicable, and forever frozen at the edge of Tyler's final question. What am I looking at? Think back to that 23-second reel, the way Tyler's breathing quickened, the way the camera focused, then fell. You've watched it now, knowing what came after. The empty vehicle, the lined-up water bottles, the body found 300 kilometers away in a place he couldn't have reached. Knowing doesn't make it less haunting. If anything, it makes it worse. Tyler Brennan went to the Namib Desert to capture light. Instead, he captured something that defies easy categorization. Not just the lights on the horizon, but the cascading impossibilities that followed. A phone that traveled 80 kilometers in the wrong direction. A vehicle driven to places no GPS recorded. A body positioned as if waiting, surrounded by questions that pile up like sand against stone. The official explanation, exposure, dehydration, tragic misadventure, covers the how but not the why, and certainly not the how could he. His family lives with fragments, a foundation built from grief, an Instagram account that persists as both memorial and mystery, photographs that hang on walls, beautiful and unsettling, reminders that Tyler was searching for something deeper than just good composition. Maybe he found it, maybe it found him. Either way, the exchange was permanent. What haunts people about this case isn't just the unanswered questions. It's the feeling that the answers exist but reside somewhere we're not equipped to look. The Namib has been shaping itself for 80 million years. Humans have walked it for a fraction of that time. We bring our technology, our logic, our need for stories that make sense. The desert doesn't care. It keeps what it takes. And sometimes, Rarely, but undeniably, it leaves behind just enough evidence to remind us that we don't understand nearly as much as we think we do. Tyler's final video, the one recorded inside the Land Cruiser, ends with a statement that feels more profound now than it might have seemed then. I wasn't scared. I was curious. Curiosity pulled him into the dark, toward lights that shouldn't have been there, toward an ending that makes no logistical sense. Was it reckless? Or was it the most human thing he could have done, to see something inexplicable and need to know more, even if knowing came at the highest cost? So now it's your turn. You've seen the evidence, the footprints that stopped, the dogs that refused, the camera that reappeared months later on a roadside, the body in the forbidden zone. You've heard the theories: disorientation, crime, psychological break, something stranger. Which one fits? Or does the truth lie in combinations, in overlaps we haven't considered yet? What do you think Tyler saw in those lights? What pulled him out of his camp and into the dunes with nothing but curiosity and a pair of sandals? And most critically, what happened in the hours between that reel posting at 11:41 p.m. and the discovery of his body 300 kilometers away in a place he had no way to reach? The desert hasn't finished telling this story. Maybe it never will. But Tyler left us pieces. 23 seconds of footage, a final message about curiosity over fear, and a mystery that refuses to close neatly. Light doesn't lie, he used to say. It shows you exactly what's there. The question is, are we ready to see it?